Unit 2 deals with language and interaction, pragmatics and discourse analysis. We are going to define the field of pragmatics and how it is related with interpretation of meaning, analyze language and interaction, discourse analysis, and the study of conversation. To understand the message, we need to know the context in which communication or a speech act occurs. Communication presupposes recognition of meaning of words in an utterance and understanding real meaning of an utterance. Let us analyze the following example. The greeting formula, how do you do, may be interpreted mean by this phrase a greeting or how we manage to do something. Does the speaker mean greeting or she wants to know how something is done? To understand real message, we need to know in which context this phrase is uttered. We may conclude that context influences the interpretation of meaning. The subfield of linguistics pragmatics explains how context influences the meaning of an utterance. Pragmatic studies how the transmission of meaning depends not only on the linguistic knowledge, such as grammar, lexicon, etc., of the speaker and listener, but also on the context of the utterance, and it helps understand how context influences the interpretation of meaning. And now let us see which elements of context influence language use. These are the participants. First of all, we need to know who the participants are, their level of relations and degree of formality in communication, what is the kind of communicative activity. It also influences the interpretation of meaning, what is its purpose. And of course, we need to know the message content, what the conversation is about, so knowing this can help us figure out the real message. As stated before, pragmatics help us understand what speakers mean in concrete context. The purpose of the speaker-writer expresses through concrete piece of language. Factors that enable us to interpret the text, the clues surrounding text which enable us to get the right meaning. To properly understand the message, we also need to consider cultural differences in context during the speech act to avoid misunderstandings about meanings and to be able to communicate and interact with speakers of the other languages more naturally. Pragmatics, or meaning in context, is closely related with discourse analysis. Discourse analysis is a branch of linguistics that focuses on language use above and beyond the sentence. It refers to real meaning of an utterance or words depending on the context. Discourse analysis also focuses on describing and understanding how language is used. This discipline analyzes written, spoken, and signed language use. Why do we need to know about the field of discourse analysis? Well, since the main focus of this discipline is all types of languages, written, spoken, signed, so we need to be aware of how people take turns in conversations, how they open and close conversations, launch new topics or close old ones, shift topics, etc., how conversation generally progresses, and how to satisfactorily shift from one utterance to the next. Since people of different cultures have different conversational rules and norms, the knowledge of discourse analysis helps achieve appropriate communicative competence and consider cultural differences such as intonation, pauses for breath, interpret body language, and so on. Communication is a complex issue. You know that to interact efficiently with speakers of other languages, not only knowledge of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation is necessary. Some other aspects of communication, such as social rules of behavior, norms of interaction, and turn-takings, influence the success of interaction. American social linguist Dale Himes made a connection between speech and human relations and human understanding of the world. He coined the term communicative competence, or knowledge necessary to use language in social context, that is to say, appropriate language use. The concept of communicative competence is especially relevant for cross-cultural communication. Dale Himes defined 4 main groups of communicative competence. Linguistic competence. It refers to knowledge of grammar, vocabulary, sounds, and their pronunciation. Social linguistic competence deals with knowledge of sociocultural rules of use, how to use and respond to language appropriately. Discourse competence is the knowledge of how to produce and comprehend oral or written texts in the modes of speaking, writing, and listening, reading, respectively. It deals with organizing words, phrases, and sentences to create conversations, speeches, poetry, email messages, newspaper articles, and so on. Strategic competence is the ability to recognize and repair communication breakdowns before, during, or after they occur. Example: requests for repetition, clarification, negotiation of meaning, the usage of gestures, taking turns in conversation, etc. Telheim also developed a model to identify and label the components of linguistic interaction. These are possibility. It refers to the formal aspects of a language, whether utterances are grammatically correct or not. Feasibility. It refers to the process in the mind. Basically, it states that simpler sentences are more feasible and less ambiguous they will be for comprehension. Appropriateness deals with the importance of the context of the utterance. Language should be interpreted within specific situation in which it occurs, in a certain context. For example, it is not appropriate to address a boss darling, or when complaining to a police, you cannot address him or her as sweetheart. And finally, attestedness. This refers to the actual occurrence of something. To put it simply, the difference between synonymous words, walk and perambulate, is the frequency of their occurrence. Walk is more common and perambulate less common. Dear student, thank you very much for your attention. Good luck and success in your studies. Remember to contact your tutor if you have more questions. My email is shown here. Thank you.